All right, we are live. What's up, YouTube? This is the AK guy again, and today we've got a very special guest. We've got John with Active Self-Protection.
Well, good morning.
Yep, I've been following you for a pretty long time, so this is exciting for me.
Well, cool, man. I'm glad to come on. I think it's been an interesting ride with Active Self-Protection and kind of starting it from nothing and then seeing where we're at and where we're going. And so, it's fun. It's not what I expected.
Now that's actually one thing I wanted to get out of the way first before we went into the how you got started and everything was.
Yeah.
It's obligatory. Really, I've got to ask. My fans would kill me if I didn't. Are you an AK guy?
Well, no, I'm not actually.
Interview over. I'm sorry.
Interview over. Thanks for playing. It's not, the funny part is it's not because I don't want to be. I just don't have a lot of exposure to the AK platform. So, right. or that particular rifle. I've been an AR guy. I have a friend here in town who buys and sells Narinkos. That's what he does. He loves them.
Nice.
And so he's been bugging me. He's like, hey, I got to get you one. But I mean, the reality is for 2015 so far, my wife's in school to be a midwife and there's just not been any funds in the budget, So right. It's like, but I really want one. I mean, because, who doesn't want more guns in the safe?
Right. Well, hell, anytime you come to the East Coast, we'll correct that. We'll make sure you're nice and acquainted with the AK platform.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I've always said if it's got a trigger and it goes bang, I like it. And it's not like I haven't shot them. It's not like I don't know how it works. Love the simplicity, love the reliability. Just, there's only so many dollars and so much room in the safe. And so far, I haven't had room in either one.
Yep. The unfortunate bind that we're all in.
If any one of your fans wants to rectify that by just gifting me one, I will take one gladly and put it to good use.
Hey, AK guy fans out there, correct this. Let me take a look at how this looks in the stream. Say something real quick.
Yes, are you hearing me? Am I doing okay?
I think it's only me, it looks like.
Weird. Okay, hold on. So I'm not on mute. Let's go into my settings.
Ask, can you hear
Okay,
John?
So I just changed. Okay, so I just changed over and made sure that it's on my better microphone. So let's just see if everybody's got that. So I've got the right cam. I should have the right microphone. So can you hear me?
Let me see.
Whoa, I'm presenting to everyone. How about that?
You're big. Wow, how about that? All right, so now at least they can see you here. See.
I guess. Hi, everybody. This is all new, man. I haven't done one of these before, so you're gonna have to forgive me for that.
All right. But yeah, I haven't done one of these either, so I have no idea how this works. There's a setting where you can switch between both of us.
Oh yeah. Well, again, I'm not the expert here, so you got me, man. You sent me an invite, I clicked OK, and then all right, let's talk. I don't,
All right. Well, hopefully that fixed it. Let me see. I got nothing to see but great sound. Oh, well, he's got great sound.
All right. Well, there you go. So I wonder, is there a way that the Hangout can do side by side or picture in picture? This stuff I don't know. I can Google it. I can look it up if you want.
Yeah, sure. Let's work on seeing if we can get this fixed for maybe like the next minute or so. But let me see. Screen share. What is that?
Oh wait, no. Let's do that. Let's see. There is no option for side-by-side video. You got me, man. So I see on Quora right now that it says that there's not. I'm trying to get my Google Foo on here. All right.
Oh, there you are.
There I am. Did we figure that out?
It's working. I don't know why, but it is.
Hallelujah. We're okay.
Perfect. All right. So now we can actually.
We are utter professionals here, man. We are really. I mean, hey.
high production right here.
That's what I major in, is high production values.
Yep, absolutely.
Sarcasm. Yeah.
All right, so I actually don't know this, and I'm sorry. I'm pretty sure there's videos out there where you've done interviews in the past. But how in the world did you get started doing the whole Facebook, YouTube thing?
Well, I mean, so I've been on Facebook for, I don't know, 6 years, 7 years, something like that. So because I teach college part-time, and so like 2008, something like that, some of my students were like, hey, you should be on this. So I got a Facebook profile in like 2008. Because again, I teach at a local college part-time. I started active self-protection actually in 2011. Mm-hmm. And really that was, so a little bit of backstory on me. I was in the Navy for 8 years. When I got out, I moved to Phoenix to go to grad school. I pastor a church full-time. That's what I do for a living. And so then I was running a video game store while I was going to seminary. So when the Xbox came out and all that stuff, and make sure, hang on a second here. Sorry, I just want to get rid of that.
Oh, so good.
When the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation came out, the PS3, people were getting mugged for their, Xboxes and stuff, and I was like, no, that's not going to happen. So I went and got my CCW here in Arizona. That's really easy. I mean, it's an 8-hour class, shall issue, rock and roll. Got that, put the gun on my hip pretty much as a magic talisman. I didn't really know how to use it in any kind of real significant way. And at the same time, I started studying martial arts. My son, who is now 15, at the time was a real little guy, and he was about 4, and said to me, he's like, Papa, why don't you come study Kempo with me? And at the time I was in grad school, I was working full time. I was pastoring a church part time. I'm like, I don't have time, buddy. Well, what about when you get out of school? Okay, when I get out of school, pat, pat, pat. Well, literally at my graduation ceremony, he comes up, gives me a big hug. Papa, congratulations. I'm so proud of you. Are you coming to class on Tuesday? And it's like a year later, it was like a 5-year-old, 6-year-old at that time. And so I was like, all right, I'll come. Just fell in love with that. I didn't really plan that. I just really fell in love with Kenpo in particular, martial arts in general. I'm a very kinesthetic learner, and I work with my hands. Well, I talk with my hands and all that stuff. So I enjoyed it. So you put those two together, and I've always had kind of an entrepreneurial streak too. And so, I was kind of thinking about it, and I'm like, man, I got to find a way. I'm getting into guns here. I got to find a way to write this off. I got to find a way to make this into a business so that I can at least write off bullets, So that was what the thought was, the founding of Active Self-Protection. I went and got my NRA instructor certs and certified in pistol so that I could teach. And that was 2011. 2012, somewhere in 2012, I started the Facebook page for ASP. And the reason I started it was simply because I was putting some gun stuff on my Facebook, my personal Facebook. Mm-hmm. And I got a lot of blue-haired church ladies on my Facebook, and some of them didn't actually cost me a friend because I put up a picture or a short video of my wife shooting my AR-15. And some people just couldn't understand that. How could a pastor, allow his wife to shoot a machine gun? And I'm like, well, it's a gun, for gracious sakes, give me a break, right? So I started the Facebook page for 2 reasons. Just number one, so that I could put my gun stuff that I wanted to kind of hold on to and show people, not on my personal Facebook. And number 2, because like many instructors, I wasn't getting as many students into classes as I wanted. So I thought, man, if I start a Facebook page, maybe I can attract some people in Phoenix and fill classes a little bit easier. So it was sometime in 2012. Well, 2013, I just kind of remember these numbers. January 1st of 2013, ASP had 140 fans. So then it almost became a game though. At that point, it was like, okay, so wait a minute, if I'm going to I started putting stuff out, people started interacting with it. And so I'm like, okay, well, let's see, if I can start engaging folks. And it's almost like a game to me. Can I break Facebook? Right. They have things where they say, hey, we want your page to reach so many people, and we want to limit you to this and that. And I just, I'm going to see if I can not work around the rules, but do what most people won't do with to engage people. So that really worked at the time. In 2013, Facebook really rewarded pictures. Memes were really big. So I started doing that. That really grew us. In fact, January 1st, 2014, we had right at just a few fewer than 20,000 fans, which was huge growth. I mean, you think about that. I mean, it was fantastic. And I went from this guy just in Phoenix to then I had fans kind of all over. And then here's the funny part. So now we went from 20,000 January 1st, 2014. We were at 89,000 on January 1st, 2015, which again, great growth. And then this year so far, we've gone from 89,000 to about 136,000 and still growing.
That's incredible. Yeah.
I mean, it's a pretty good growth. So in October of 2014, a little before that, Facebook kind of changed from pictures to they really now reward video. And I started seeing some surveillance video out there and some stuff that I was like, oh man, there could be some lessons. So I started uploading them to the page and then just typing some lessons in the descriptions. And that was great. We started doing that like, I don't know, August, September sometime. And then the fortuitous moment, when I realized that my MacBook with Adobe Premiere, I could record audio. So I could just crack my laptop, import the video, talk over it, and then upload it. And that has become what we're known for. That's become what everybody knows me for. So then we've done a little bit more than that. I've invested in a little better equipment, though I'm no professional there. And, I have this screen behind me now, so at least I don't look like a total dork and you're not looking into my kitchen. And,
we want to know what's for breakfast.
Right. So, I mean, it's been an interesting ride. So now the social media aspect has just radically overwhelmed everything else. So I don't actually get to go do live training as much as I might like to anymore, because I'm focused more now on, we're reaching anywhere from 1 million to 3 million people a week just on Facebook. So, that's great stuff. And we're helping folks. And we now have police academies and, I've got 3 police academies and 2 post-certification, statewide post-certifications using our videos to train officers.
Wow.
Yeah, sergeants all over the country are emailing me and asking me if, hey, can I show this to my officers at roll call so that they can go out and be aware? And, I'm like, yeah, man, great. Please go for it. So, it's been a crazy ride. Not what I expected, not what I planned, but I'm grateful for it.
Yeah, it sounds great. Yeah, see, I'd never seen the breakdown like that. I remember following you guys. I was doing some pistol shooting with a local kind of friend of mine, and she was talking about this one Facebook page that they upload all these crazy scenarios and things like that and run you through it and the 5Ds and everything. So I went and checked you guys out, and I've been following you ever since.
Nice, man. Yeah, the 5Ds is kind of my contribution. If there's 2 things that I would say that I've gotten in huge ways that I've seen other people kind of do some, but not really put it together. Number 1 is the transitional spaces, and really kind of focused on that. And number 2 is against an armed opponent. Some Krav guys will use RCAT. Some Kempo guys I know use a couple other acronyms, but putting that together in a memorable way. And what we see again and again and again and again in real fights with, those 5Ds, that's been kind of my contribution so far. And I'm excited about that. Excited what's to come.
Yeah, I actually had no idea that the 5Ds, that whole thing was yours originally. Because I didn't know if that was like some other principle that somebody had come up with that you were reiterating. But that's interesting to know. I didn't know that was yours.
Whose is it? Okay, so you'll hear Krav Maga guys go with RCAT, redirect, control, attack, and take away. Okay, fine. Is that similar? Boy, it's almost identical is really what it is. I want to make things real memorable and easy. My master's degree is in communications. So I want people to have something that's memorable. When you get out on the mat, can I remember that? Can I remember the first thing I've got to do is get that tool away from me, so it's not going to hurt me. Then I want to make sure that I've dominated him, the tool, some other thing. So I'm always looking for larger principles that, okay, so I'm not a Krav Maga guy, but if I step into a Krav Maga gym, do I see the large principle here that I can take something out of? Or if I go study with some Wing Chun folks or Kali or Eskrima, whatever it is, jujitsu or whatever, can I get something out of this? And when we look for the larger general principles, then I think we can, and that's better in my opinion than, okay, so my belt is in American Kenpo, or a derivative of American Kenpo. And so it's like, oh, everybody's like, my martial art's the best, and if you're not doing Kenpo, you suck. And I'm like, nah, man, that's just not me. I see value in what, these guys are doing. And
you become like CrossFitters.
Oh, yes. Or paleo, So I just prefer to look for the larger principles, the Bruce Lee principle, take truth from wherever you can find it, personalize it, and make it your own. So that's just my preference, man.
Oh, nice. Okay, so I have a pretty lengthy firearms experience, not as an expert or anything like that. I've just been shooting for a long time. I've been shooting for longer than I've been doing anything else. My dad actually started me out on an AK, like when I was 7 years old. He started me right out. No 22s, no handguns. No, it was a 7.62 SAR.
Here you go, 7.62. Don't hurt yourself, son.
Yeah. I couldn't even rack the thing, but I was shooting it.
Nice.
But I've got very limited experience with martial arts, and by limited, I mean I can hit things, but right. I've never had any formal training or one-on-one, anything like that. So what would you recommend for somebody who's maybe trying to get into it?
I mean, I think if there's one thing that the videos show again and again is, and I'm a tool user, I'm a firearms carrier, right? I mean, I carry my gun every day. I live in the gun-friendliest state in America, so it's not like we have to worry about carrying firearms here. So I do every day, and I think, though, the one thing that we see again and again is that when you get attacked, the bad guy is always going to launch that attack from ambush. And so when somebody says, well, my answer is, I'm going to draw a gun and drive it out there and shoot him, you may not have the time to do that. You may not have the ability. You got to earn that draw. So having some, I generally, rather than saying martial arts, I call them empty-handed skills, because, again, it's a more general principle, because some people don't like the connotation of martial art because that's old and it's, formal and all stuff. So people prefer combatives or defensive tactics. You know how people are with
right. Semantics.
Yeah, semantics. To me, I'm a martial artist. I love being a martial artist. And I would recommend, see, the thing with martial arts training is it is very localized. What's available in your town is not what's available in my town. So I could say, as a Kempoist, and I could say, hey, go find a good Kempo school. But the honest truth is, I don't know if there, number one, is a Kempo school in your town. Number two, if the Kempo school that might be in your town is worth a darn. And that's just the honest truth. So what I always tell people is that almost any of the modern martial arts will be helpful. But it all depends on who you're taking class from, what their focus is, and how they do business. So I always tell folks, if you're going to go and look into martial arts, number one, look around and get reviews. Number two, I would never, ever go to a school that I can't sit in and watch a class before I pay them a penny. If I can't watch a class, if I can't see what's going on, I'm not interested. Number three, I'd strongly prefer an art that is more focused on self-defense than tournament or sport. Mm-hmm. So, you might see a jiu-jitsu school, for instance, and they're a sport jiu-jitsu school. They're all about tournaments. That's great, but the rules of the tournament are not going to help me sometimes on the street. And so, and I know everybody uses that phrase, it's going to get you killed on the street. Well, it's like if I take Taekwondo, when you get through the belts and into the sashes in Taekwondo, it can be really helpful. But if it's a tournament-oriented school, or we're going to help your kids to be positive and self-disciplined and all that stuff, that's great. I prefer an art, however that is, whether, again, whatever you put the name to it, that they say, well, we want to focus on defending ourselves from attacks and keep people from hurting us. Aha, I like that. So number one, can I see that? Number two, is it open? Number three, what kind of teacher is it? Is the teacher open to being corrected? Are they a decent human being? Do they think they know it all? Or are they a lifelong learner and a student? I love a teacher. My personal instructor, I study at Attitude First Martial Arts here in Phoenix. And our instructor, Lawrence, is totally willing to learn from anyone. I've had plenty of times in class where we've been in class and we're working through something, and somebody said, man, I don't know about this, and this seems to make more sense to me. And he goes, well, let me think about that. And then a couple days later, he comes back, man, we've been working through that. Let's do it this way. So I love that. That to me is important. So I always tell folks, if you find that, dive in a little while and see what you find. And if after 6 months you go, man, this is kind of lame, I don't like this, I don't feel like I'm getting anywhere, then find another one. I've been doing Kempo for 9 years. So, I mean, I found the right one for me first shot.
And you were absolutely right with the localized thing, because you said Kempo.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I had never heard of that before we started talking. Honestly,
Yeah.
like I just, they don't have that here, I guess.
And it is localized. It's I say the same thing where I have a friend who is a silat master, and people, a lot of people go, a what? I go, it's silat, man. It's Filipino martial arts. Okay. Or if you go, I have another friend who's one of the top guys in Jeet Kune Do, and like, what? Oh, Bruce Lee martial arts. Oh, okay, that I know. I know Bruce Lee. Or it might, again, the names are out there, and once you get into the community a little bit, you'll see that there's different history behind those. And remember, every art is built for a situation. So, karate is this generic word. Karate means empty hands, right? And so, everybody's a form. So this is empty-handed art. But you might say, okay, my sister has a black belt in Aikido, and Aikido is a Japanese art, and it's an art for an unarmed populace against samurai. And so, you say, okay, that's great. I don't know that that's a modern American problem. I like my gun flu.
Yeah, as much as samurais are a problem in the Midwest.
Yeah, I prefer the ancient mystical art of click pow, So, I look for stuff that meets a modern problem, the problem that in my situation that I might deal with. So when I've tailored my art to my style, everybody has their own style. I have focused on, when I'm working on techniques, I love to get myself space so that I can get to my tools. And not everybody does. My instructor, Lawrence, he's not a firearms carrier for a general sense. And so he likes to finish up close, because I got to finish this guy right here so he's not a threat. Me, I'd rather get enough space from him and get a force multiplier in the fight if I can and if I have to, so that, I can get away from him. So everybody's style's different.
That's a wonderful term that you just used, because that's what I got that one from you, but I've started using, is a force multiplier. No, This isn't. It's not a weapon. It's a tool. It's a force multiplier.
I'm the weapon. All else are just tools.
Yep.
So, I really focused on there because I live in Arizona, man. I mean, it's constitutional carry. We were the 3rd constitutional carry state in the nation. If you're legal to own it, you're legal to carry it here, carry it concealed, 21 years old and over, great, no problem. But I mean, I have fans in Australia. I have fans in South Africa. I have fans in the UK, Latvia, Russia. It's amazing, man. Google Translate's my best friend, because people are sending me messages in all kinds of languages. Brazil, a lot of fans in Brazil. And in most of those places, a law-abiding person can't use a firearm. And they're not allowed to own them. They can't find them. I mean, you can turn yourself into a felon, if you want to, but I don't think that's a positive outcome. So I say, okay, what works best for them? And I tell folks all the time, what works best for me may not work for you. But like, for instance, I mean, I've always got, I carry a little pen, this is my Smith & Wesson little pen. And people say, do you really use that? I go, well, I mean, I've trained with this bad boy a pretty good bit. And if I had to use it to do something, this generates more force than my fist does by itself, and it'll make you miserable.
Yeah.
So it doesn't generate any force on its own. You set it down and it can do nothing, but in the hand of a skilled operator, it can greatly magnify how effective I can be at defending myself. So that's why I use that term, force multiplier.
Yeah, it's a great one. I actually got a story. It's not too far from you, New Mexico. My grandfather was sitting in on a meeting back in the Sandy Hook times, when they were really getting into the band crazy stuff. He was sitting on a council meeting and said that I am more deadly, and he's clicking a pen. He said, with this pen, than most people in the room are with a firearm, because they've got no experience with it. It's a tool. It's all in how you use it.
Well, and I mean, more people are murdered every year with hammers than with rifles. So, let's not fool ourselves. In places that we have, gun control panaceas, we still have high violent crime rates. So I really do believe if you are well trained, then you're independent of tool. And that's like, I don't know. I've carried a 1911. I've carried a Springfield XD. I've carried a Glock. I currently carry an HK, a VP9.
Man, you just stole my next question.
Oh, sorry. But I want to be independent of platform. I want to be independent of tool. So it doesn't really matter. I'm not a fanboy. I like them all, and I can pick one up, use it effectively, and go from there.
Yep, and even though I'm the AK guy, my friends tease me with this, but I'll pick up an AR and I'll do some drills and whatnot with it. But they're always like, "Get your phone, get your phone."
Yeah, get a video. Yeah, I used to do that with a friend too. Well, and really, I mean, I tell people all the time, depending on where you are in the world, you're here in the States, you really need to know how to run the AR because it's a predominant rifle. But in the rest of the world, you better be able to run the AK.
Oh yeah.
My wife and I spent some time in Rwanda in 2010, and it was a great time. I can't wait to go back. It's very Central Africa. I mean, you find Rwanda by what's that?
Mission work?
Yeah, it was a mission trip. I was over there training pastors. My wife is a midwife, so she's over there doing birth work. And while we were there, they were about to have a presidential election. And so walking down rural roads, man, you'd see pairs of police officers. One guy's got a radar gun, a portable radar gun. The other guy's got an AK that looked like it was cleaned last in the Clinton administration, but probably still fired like a champ.
Wow. Yeah, that's some serious speeding enforcement right there.
It was no joke, and it was very different because we had another guy in front of us who was driving. He's an American expat driving his Range Rover, and so a white man driving a Range Rover, a Mzungu in Kinyarwanda or Swahili, just they wouldn't even give the time of day to us. A bunch of us in a taxi being driven by a Rwandan pulled over every time. And I like to tell this a funny story. So the first time we get pulled over, and this guy is, he's right next to me with his AK I'm in the passenger front seat. He's next to me with the AK. Guy on the other side's getting papers and stuff from our driver. And they're talking in Kinyarwanda is a very small language. We didn't speak it. And the driver looks over at us. He says, I've told him you're Americans. And the guy that's checking papers, he looks at us and he says, America? And we look at him, we go, yeah, man, we're from America. And he goes, Barack Obama. And we say, Barack Obama. So he hands the guy back his papers and off the road we went, And I was joking with my friends, listen, I don't care where you sit politically, hilarious that this guy didn't know anything about America. He didn't know any English at all, but he knew Barack Obama. We went, you bet, man. Absolutely.
Oh my God. In that situation, what do you say? I didn't vote for him.
Yeah. We said Barack Obama, yay, moving on, get us out of here. And of course in Rwanda, I'm pretty sure they experienced a really terrible genocide in '94. And so of course, as an outsider, I couldn't carry anything. Firearms were certainly a no-no. Knives, any kind of knife at all could get you in a lot of trouble. And especially really? Somebody coming in, I don't want to have problems. So, I mean, I did carry my pen, but also recognizing, listen, you got to be very circumspect, no batons or anything like that. We flew through Brussels, through Belgium, and you get caught with a baton in Belgium and it's a felony. You'll spend time in a Danish prison. And we weren't going to mess with that. So it was hey, I'm the weapon and all else are just tools. And so, to speak to what your fans really love, I knew that if everything went crazy, the most likely thing I was going to be able to pick up was an AK.
Yeah, especially in foreign country, maybe not in the United States where, land of the 5.56, but
right, pretty
much anywhere else in the world.
Yep, it's 7.62 or bust.
And sometimes I've got a few friends like just all over the world that just, they send me cool pictures of weapons because most of them do use AKs, but sometimes it hurts me because stuff that's really rare here.
Oh, it's like,
the Norinkos, and I have a friend in Pakistan who sent me a picture of his PPSH 41. He was so proud of it. I'm like, oh, let me see it. Stock was cut down into a pistol grip. He had hacked off the barrel, welded on a vertical grip.
It's Pakistan, man. What do you expect?
Like, that's horrific. He's like, oh, it's cool. It's, you know,
This is neat.
Oh,
I bought it for $12.
yeah. Of course, all this stuff's full auto, and they.
Oh yeah. Again, it's Pakistan. You know, I mean, it's a different world. My wife and I took a trip a couple years ago to Israel, and we spent a couple weeks there touring. And you know, the Israeli military carries M4s, and now if they're gonna have rifle problems from Muslims or whatever, it's almost always AK, but the Israeli military carries M4. And the funny thing to me was, as an American, and we were over there and I'm interested in their gear, I got to spend a little time with the Israeli Special Forces, about a day. And I remember we're walking up to Temple Mount, which is, I mean, highly secure. If ever you've been in Israel, going up on Temple Mount is sketchy. It's tense because of the proximity of Muslims and Jews, and they don't like each other and all this stuff. So while you're walking up there, you go through all this security and whatever, and there's 2 Israeli soldiers in full battle rattle. I mean, just to the nines. And so we go up and we start talking to them. They both spoke English, and I go, so, you know, you're carrying an M4, you know, blah, blah, blah. And the guy goes, oh yeah. And I go, man, that's a pretty cool looking rifle, but it looks like it's been used. He goes, yeah, takes it off, takes his sling off and goes, just hands it to me. He goes, yeah, man, you want to see?
Wow.
Okay, cool.
You try doing that at DC. See how that goes for you.
That's his rifle. Okay, you know, check it or press checked it. And okay, so he handed me a loaded rifle. Awesome. You know, looking through stuff, and it's got a little ACOG on it, and you know, I was like, oh, cool rifle. Here you go, man. Take your rifle back. It just was crazy.
If I'm going to get killed in a foreign country due to a misunderstanding, this isn't how it's going to happen.
This is not how it's going to happen, man. So how'd you get to become the AK guy? How did that become your thing?
Oh, that was another accident, actually. Really, what it was is I'm actually a pre-law student at Campbell, and I was really bored during an environmental science class last September, and I was pulling up my phone, and I started a YouTube account just to post some extra videos just on the AK page. I'm just like, all right, the AK guy, whatever. And never really took off. I had 89 subscribers at the end of last year. It wasn't much, but I posted one video, which has since been taken down. I meant to replace it. I meant to redo the video, just better. But it was the #1 AK upgrade. And it's basically just a trigger job. And I went from 89 subscribers to about 3,500 in a month and a half.
Yeehaw, man. It's great content. I'm telling you.
Yeah, it's something I never would have expected, but now I'm going through your thing where you're figuring out, all right, how do I monetize it? How do I start growing this as more of a business? Yep. So turning a hobby into a business is kind of fun, but it's challenging.
It really is. But, you know, man, I'm telling you, social media and the internet have really democratized business in some significant ways. I think that, you know, I was just talking with some of my admin team. I mean, from a business that I started really out for a run with my wife, to where we are now, we bootstrapped. I haven't invested money. I haven't, you know, I haven't gotten investors or whatever. It's been all just kind of pay as we go, whatever. And, you know, I just realized that we should probably on the retail end this year do $500,000 in business.
Wow.
Exactly. And I look at that and I go, oh my gosh, man, how in the world did that happen?
I'd love to have that issue. Just
yeah. Yeah, and it's kind of mind-boggling, but you know, when you leverage the power of the internet, man, and what I've always tried to be is just a trusted advisor to people. My goal is not to sell people stuff. My goal is not to create problems for folks, you know, or to say, oh, buy my junk. Instead, like for instance, you know, I mean, every day I put up a tip of the day on active cell protection on the Facebook page, and it does list the product. And, you know, I mean, like, okay, so people say, well, why do you recommend this pen, John? Because I do. I've recommended this pen. People say, why? Well, because I own one and it works really well and I'm trained with it. And it, you know, I paid the same price for it. They didn't give me this. I use it, you know, and so if you're looking for one, that's a good one. There's probably other good ones on the market, but this is what I use. And
Right.
so that's been very effective. So that's my goal is when I get into somebody's world, I don't want to, I don't want to come in as look at me, I'm the big bad expert. I mean, if you look at me, I'm obviously not a CrossFitter.
Could have
I'm not
fooled me.
Pat McNamara, get you some, that's not who I am. I'm not hardcore. I'm just a regular guy and a guy who wants to protect my family and I got 4 kids and a wife who I love and I want to be around for them. So I just want to become a trusted advisor to people. And when you do that, and if you handle that responsibility well, I think then good things happen,
And to be honest, from an outsider, and this is my 2 cents mean absolutely nothing, but I think that's why you've been so successful is because people relate to you as not just this ultimate James Yeager tactical expert. It's just that you're a dude who knows his stuff, who's been kind of just training in it, has identified patterns, and can speak on them articulately and tell average people.
There's a big difference between being able to do something and being able to teach it. That's a huge difference. I am a teacher. That's kind of one of my things at my core. I mean, I instructed at both the undergrad and grad level. I teach, and I communicate with people. I'm a pastor. That's what I do. Right. I try to help people. So those skills translate, and those are universal skills. I am not a subject matter expert by any stretch of the definition. Now, okay, fine. I might in the next year or so get my black belt in Kempo. It takes forever in Kempo. And at a black belt level, you are kind of considered a subject matter expert. Okay. But that's not my place is not to do that. To be able to do something is one thing. To be able to teach somebody what that is an entirely different skill set. So, I always ask folks, people say all the time, so what's your background, John? And it's really funny because I don't want to name names, but I'm kind of talking with a couple of guys to maybe do some stuff with them. It's pretty cool. And one of them came back to me and said, well, of course we'll have to vet your background, John, but tell me, obviously with what you're teaching, you've got some kind of a tactical or special forces background. And I joke, I was like, well, okay, I was an operator in the military for 8 years. Now it was a nuclear reactor operator, but I was an operator. I'm not a tactical, stud. What I am is I see the patterns, I watch real life happen, and after a while you can see things, and that's a skill, and then I can bring that to people. So that's what I try to be. And don't get me wrong, I see some of these guys that really are, I mean, I'm friends, like real friends with Instructor Zero. Okay. I know the guy, we've gotten to be friends over the last year, and he's amazing, man. He's ridiculous. He really is an operator. Like he is, he trains special forces guys, and he's, pardon the language, he is a true badass. I'm not. I can't keep up with that stuff, but I can teach. And so that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to try to help people.
Right. And while Instructor Zero is, I mean, he's pretty cool. Those people like the James Yeagers and the just to keep throwing that name out there, I guess, but the operator types, the people who've been there and done that, they've been overseas, they've been in like 8 deployments, and they kill people for a living, essentially. That's cool for tactical advice and things like that. There's a limited amount of real world teaching that I think you can do out of somebody who wears a plate carrier all day versus the average Joe out on the street going to the Walmart in a defense situation.
Yeah, and I mean, those the difference in strategy between somebody who's going into a place going, okay, there's a real high likelihood somebody's going to try to kill me, and so here are my rules of engagement. The rules of engagement in Afghanistan are different than the rules of engagement in Phoenix. Or Charlotte or whatever. So I have nothing but respect as a veteran, and I'm actually a disabled vet. So, I got nothing but respect for my veteran brothers and sisters, nothing but respect for guys and gals who have some significant experience. And I was never, I never went to Iraq. I never did a deployment like that. As in the Navy, right? We go float in the ocean. I made hot water the hard way. But at the same time, that doesn't make you able to help other people. I'm a football fan. I don't know if you're a football fan at all, but I always ask people, how many Super Bowls did Bill Belichick win as a player? Well, the answer is none. In fact, he never played in the NFL. but he's one of the best coaches in the history of the NFL because he can teach and he inspires confidence in people and they trust him. Again, keep asking, how many Super Bowls did Bill Walsh win as a player? The answer is none. And the list goes on and on. You know, I mean, being a great coach is not the same as being a great player. Wayne Gretzky, probably the greatest hockey player ever. I don't think really any discussion there. Greatest hockey player in history. But he coached the Phoenix Coyotes for a little while, and probably one of the worst coaches you could possibly imagine.
Really?
Oh, just terrible as a coach, because his mind operated at such a level where a regular guy playing hockey could not relate to what Wayne Gretzky could do.
Where he had the skills, he just couldn't articulate it.
Yeah, well, and he couldn't understand. Well, wait a minute, man. How come you can't see? If you just slide over here to this part of the ice, you can see that he's got a small slot here over his left shoulder. And if you turn the puck on its side and get that moving that way, you can get over and get a goal. And most guys go, I did. I can't do that. So, you know, I prefer to learn from people who are great teachers.
Right. And
so, like, you know, if I'm going to go learn the AK, it's one thing to go to somebody who is an amazing shot with an AK. But if I'm going to learn, I'm going to go to a coach who can teach me how to shoot it first.
Right. And, you know, that's a really good point, because that's where I've been trying to find my niche, is that I am not an AK expert necessarily. Like, I've built a few. I know how they work.
Sure.
I'm very experienced with them, but I am not an expert. Like,
yep.
When people say, what makes you the AK guy? I'm like, because I like them, and that's what people call me. Is they say because I love them.
Yep.
That's it. I'm no expert. I like it, and if I know something about it that I can share with people, or if I do something cool that I can share with people,
right,
that's my niche.
And own that, man. Just embrace that. Don't feel like you have to. You know, because you're an undergrad student. You know, you're pre-law, right?
Yes, sir.
There is a huge difference between somebody who is a great attorney and somebody who is a great professor of law. And who do you want to learn from? You go, well, some people are like, I want to learn from the subject matter expert. Not if he can't teach or she can't teach. I want to learn from somebody who can help me be good, not from somebody who is good themselves.
Right.
You know,
I never quite thought about it that way. It's a good point.
And some of my best professors in college and in grad school, you know, some of the very best thinkers weren't always the best teachers. And so whether that's in my own training, so it's like, you know, you ask martial arts school, whatever, I want a guy or gal who's a great teacher, somebody who can help me understand it and put it in a way that makes sense to me that I can take in. How do I pick a firearms trainer, right? I don't want an instructor. I want a teacher. I want somebody who not can just read from a sheet of paper and bark commands at me with his knife hand, you know, because I did a tour in Iraq and, you know, no, I want somebody who comes to me at my level and says, let me help you. You know, let me show you how to do this. And let me put it in your mind in a way that you can put into your world. That's what I want to do.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. And I like I said, I think you've done very well on that, because it's helped me. A lot of your instructional videos, it made me reevaluate the way that I carry or I go into certain situations, or just the mindset, really.
Yeah.
Because I live in Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, Fort Bragg's here, so you got a lot of military guys going in and out, but it's a very bad, high crime area. So I've got to be pretty aware around here, because I carry everywhere. I've known too many people that good people, bad things happen to good people.
And it's the unfortunate truth. You know, we talk about spiritual fitness a lot at ASP, and that's a two-edged sword. The first part of which is recognizing that evil exists and it can happen to you, and being willing to admit I am at risk, and so I'm going to do what I can to protect myself. And that's something that a lot of people don't do. You know, they just go, nah, it'll never happen to me. Probably. And, you know, what are the chances? I hope I get to the end of my life and I've wasted every penny that I've spent in self-defense training, in ammo, in, you know, I hope I get to go meet God and it's like, you know, hey man, you put a lot of time into that for nothing. But I will tell you this, at this point, I get messages on the Facebook page every week from somebody who says, man, you saved my life this week. Who, let me tell you a story. And this big paragraph comes out of here's what happened. And I was aware. And so, you know, the one that cracked me up, I got not too long ago, was a woman who, her husband sent her to Walmart to buy something. It was early morning because she was on her way to work. These two guys, as she walked in, gave her the heebie-jeebies. And then as she was in the back of the store in an aisle, she saw them kind of triangulate and surround her. And she said that down an aisle, right? And she had one out, and she said, I heard your voice in my head. And I said, oh, hell no. I am not going to be the one that says, where he says, this is where she should have got out. I am not going to be on his videos. And she got out of there. And that cracked me up, you know. And I get from people all the time, man, John, I heard your voice in my ear saying, you know, be aware, stay in the fight. Don't let those guys intimidate you. Use your de-escalation skills, use your verbal judo. And that makes it really worthwhile.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of good lessons to be learned, especially because some of your videos where what they did wrong, where there is no good guy, where it's just this is what happened, and you almost want to jump through the screen and interject, like why isn't anybody doing something, especially if it's like a cell phone video where you know people are there.
Yeah, but the bystander effect is real. I mean, that's a real psychological phenomenon that we know exists. And once somebody breaks the bystander effect, then other people will join. So that's why I always tell people, you got to be the one to break it. Normalcy bias is real in people. You know, you can look those things up. There's both Wikipedia pages for that are great. But normalcy bias, people see what they expect to see. I mean, I've seen videos of somebody get stabbed, and then they just sit there like, oh, well, that's kind of funny. And you go, why wouldn't you stand there? Normalcy bias says that didn't really happen. That was because these things don't happen. I watched a video the other day of a guy, it's an assassination attempt. Guy comes up, drives a gun out in front of him, and it goes click. And the guy looks at him like, oh, and it clicks. So the guy sits there, taps and racks and shoots him dead there because the guy just stood there. He was like, wait, what? Tap, rack, bang. You go, what happened? And it's unfortunate, but it happens.
Yeah, I hadn't seen that one yet. That's incredible.
So, you know, I just want to help people to see that happens. And then, so what we tend to do, what I do, like I taught Kempo last night. I guess part of my training. In adult class, we have a big screen in our school, and so I threw up one of our videos and said, "Hey, let's watch this video and see what happened, and then now let's spend an hour and a half here on the mat working through that problem. And how would we protect ourselves in this scenario and in this situation?" And that's why I started doing the videos, is to use them in my real life training. So tomorrow I have a class I'm teaching to 5 people, a family, on family defense and self-defense for their family. And that's how we're going to start. We're going to start with 2 videos that I've already picked out that say, here's the real life problem. In their particular case, home invasions. So now let's solve that problem. How are we going to solve that? Where are we going to be and what are we going to do to teach them how to use the tools they have in their environment? I mean, obviously, one of their tools is an AR-15, so it's not like we're going to go in their house and, you know, shoot a bunch of rounds through the AR. But out on the range, let's set some things up like your house would be, so that you can take some shots from there, from that kind of arrangement, to be ready if that guy were to come in. So,
yeah, the train like you fight mindset.
Yep, and train for the most realistic and the most likely things to come your way. So I always say, you know, physical fitness is important because you're more likely to die of heart disease than you are of being attacked by a bad guy, says the guy who needs to lose a bunch of weight.
Well, now you make me feel guilty for eating Wendy's for lunch. So
number 2, you know, you need your verbal skills, because you're more likely to need to talk somebody down than to fight you with your hands. Empty-handed skills, and, you know, again, carrying stuff that, like I carry a pepper spray, because, you know, if I can hose you down, if I can season you liberally and get out of the fight, then I would much rather do that. And then finally, those firearm skills, that brief moment, you know, because we do train a lot for that brief moment, and we should, because then your life's on the line. It's the worst day of your life. But train for all the stuff ahead of that, so that you can take as many off ramps as you can, and then train for after that. What do you do when the fight's over, and how do you survive the fight after the fight? And those are important skills too.
Yeah, that's a good point, and that's something that a lot of people don't think of. It's one of the better videos I've ever seen. I forget who put it out. That's unfortunate. I wish I could give a shout out to him, but it was a video talking about what happens after a self-defense shooting. And something like he said, you'll probably throw up. Like if you've just shot and killed somebody, like most people aren't mentally prepared for the fact, like the 2 minutes afterwards of just sitting there dead quiet.
So, I mean, some resources that I always tell people, number one, from a legal perspective, you need to read Andrew Branca's The Law of Self-Defense. You need to read Masada Yube's new book, Deadly Force. For the psychological aspects, Dave Grossman has some great stuff out there. Definitely think On Combat, On Killing, and Warrior Mindset are the
On Killing is one of the best books I've ever read.
Yeah, it really is. And Warrior Mindset, also an incredibly good book. Can't recommend it highly enough. And you know, there's some stuff that Dave does that I'm not a huge fan of. You know, the stuff that video games are causing kids to kill people. I don't necessarily buy that. But the other stuff,
video game story, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah. So that's another topic for another day. But those books are fantastic. Gavin de Becker's The Gift of Fear is, I think, required reading for all people. Just because those prepare you beforehand, they prepare you for the after effects. And man, I just think that you should have that. I also think if you carry a gun, I'm part of an organization that would provide for legal needs afterwards. Think about how expensive it's going to be to defend yourself legally from a deadly force encounter. You know, if you had to kill somebody, if you had to shoot somebody in self-defense, man, you're talking thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars potentially in legal fees and all that. So you know, it's wise to prepare for.
Yeah, and not to mention the possibility of the media sensationalizing something. That's something that I don't think has ever been as big as it is now with the Trayvon Martin especially.
Big time.
Yeah, because that wasn't even a cop. Right.
Well, and I always tell people that the reality is, if George Zimmerman had any empty-handed skills, if he knew the first thing about jiu-jitsu or the first ability to get out from being grounded, he probably wouldn't have had to shoot that guy. And then we would be in a totally different world. So and look at what it's done. Now you might say, and I think personally, again, I watched the whole trial. Okay, I actually watched the trial. In the moment, it was very clear he was justified in what he did. Okay, that Martin was going to kill him. In that moment, he was justified in what he did. But look at what it's done to his life. Look at the downward spiral from there. And do you
think he's ever really going to get hired again? If they don't, you know?
No, it cost him his wife. So is that a win? It cost him his hope. He said he wanted to be a police officer. Of course, that'll never happen. I mean, he's had several brushes with the law since then, because my guess, and people are like, oh, look, he was a bad guy to begin with. Maybe he's got PTSD bad enough that it's causing him to make bad decisions. And I know plenty of friends that have PTSD from combat or from other stuff, from traumas in life, that it causes that. And you just look at the downward spiral of his life, and that's why I want to avoid every conflict I can, because I don't want to run that risk.
Right. Yeah, and that's something that what was the best? There was some quote. It was the best kind of fight is the one you can avoid.
Oh yeah, I mean, as a Kempoist, the art that I studied is derived from Ed Parker, and an Ed Parkerism is that you win 100% of the fights that you avoid. And the best way to win a fight is to not be there when it starts.
Yeah, get out of there.
Just get out of there. And I think, so when I started carrying, I don't know what your experience is, when I started carrying a firearm every day, it made me much more aware of my surroundings, and it made me much more likely to avoid an encounter, to avoid a problem.
Yeah. You got to watch your own temper, especially if you're carrying. You got to make sure you're very level-headed, because if one screw up, and then that changes your life forever.
And you know, not only that, but like, okay, so wait a minute, I'm carrying a firearm, so I have to be able to defend my actions at all times. And if it does raise to the level, I've got to de-escalate. I've got to do my best to escape, to evade, because of course, the last thing I want to do is to use my firearm to defend myself. I'd never want to take a life that I don't have to take. It is a tool of last resort. So I work extra hard to use every other resort first before it gets to the last resort.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've noticed that just the level of awareness, because I started carrying at a relatively young age. I started carrying, I was excited to, really, just because I had this, Billy Badass syndrome, where I thought that as soon as I turned 18, I started open carrying, because you can do that in North Carolina. But I started open carrying my Makarov, and I noticed that there was an immediate change in pretty much everything about when I was in public. Is I was always conscious, where's my gun? Where's everybody in proximity to me and my gun? And I would start shifting the way that I would move, and just become, your mindset changes.
Has to.
Especially for open carry.
Oh yeah, open carry is legal here in Arizona as well. It's not uncommon here. I mean, chances are good here in Arizona, if you see somebody open carrying, if somebody stops them, it's because they want to know what gun they're carrying.
Yeah.
It's a pretty friendly state. I prefer to conceal carry myself, but having open carried occasionally, you're totally right. When you've got an exposed firearm, I always carry openly in a retention holster, but I'm paying attention to that. I find when I conceal carry, I've concealed carry long enough now that I put it on and forget it's there. Because I know where it is, and I carry appendix, so it's I never have to worry, is it in its spot? Is it, is somebody going to take this from me? It'd be very difficult. So
right. Yeah. And North Carolina, that's one of the reasons I love kind of living in the South, is that it's kind of like Arizona, except for a giant geographical region. Is there's still pockets of liberalism that kind of seep out and control some of the gun laws, but as a whole population, very gun friendly. 75% of people got a gun in the house.
Yeah, I was just in Tennessee for the NRA annual meetings last month, and just gun friendly folk everywhere we went in Nashville. I mean, it was no problem at all. 78,000 people, and there was more people carrying guns. There was open carry. There was, I'm sure, concealed carry everywhere. Totally okay. Totally no problem. Nobody gave us a hard time. Man, it was fantastic. So it's good to see that, more towards the East Coast than what I'm used to. Of course, just to the left of us is California, which is, we call the People's Republic. So
right. I just went to California. I was in Phoenix, Arizona earlier last year, because I went to the rifle dynamics class, but I was hopping around all over the West Coast visiting family. I stopped into Phoenix for about an hour, and it was raining like crazy. It was, and by like crazy, I mean 1 inch of rain, and they were shutting everything down.
Yeah, but when it's an inch of rain here, it's an inch of rain in an hour, and so you get these huge floods,
Yeah, and that's actually what they were worried about. Is I got stuck there because they were talking about the runway flooding. So I'm just like kind of chilling out, like, okay, the one time I go to Arizona and it's Noah's Ark downpour.
Well, Brandon, I got to get, man. It's been great talking with you, but I got a couple things I got to do today. So
yeah, absolutely. I didn't mean to chew up all your Friday morning.
It's all good, man. It's great getting to know you, and I'm always enjoying meeting people whose specialties are a little different than mine.
Yep, and this is a little bit of a fanboy moment for me, because like I said, I've been following you for about a year now. So it was neat to finally get to meet you and get to talk with you a little bit.
Likewise, my friend. We'll talk to you soon, okay?
All right. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. And that sums up the broadcast. So I forgot to ask him if he needed anything to plug, but we can do that later on my Facebook or in the description. But I hope you guys had fun, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks.